All right, everyone. Hello and welcome to our session 1 through 5 recap. I am just going to share my screen here so that I can make sure that everyone can see my slides. Here we go. Hopefully you can see that and you can hear me well. So as I said, this is going to be a fairly brief overview, and it may take us 30 to 45 minutes, but that's kind of around where I imagine it will land. It might even be a little bit sooner. And what I'm going to try and do is address everything we've gone over the last 5 days. And as I was saying before I went live on Facebook, it's a little bit hard to kind of squeeze that in to such a short session because we covered so much. So I still highly encourage you to go on to pffljumpstartreplays.com and check out the individual days videos. They're between 30 and 45 minutes each day. And honestly, like you'll get a lot out of those. But I'm going to cover the highlights so that you can catch up if you are behind or if you're just joining us today. I know there's a few people that are doing that as well. So first one, on day one, we learned all about the pain epidemic, and we talked about ways that conventional medicine has essentially failed you as an individual. And the normal issue, the most important piece of this is that conventional medicine is all about covering up the symptoms, okay? It focuses on masking symptoms, not at all on addressing the root causes. Medications as well, they enable people to tolerate pain rather than relieve it. So what they're really doing is they're not working at all on actually resolving anything. All they're doing is they're covering it up. And the problem with this is that we end up in these cycles where we aren't aware that we're experiencing pain. And this happens early on in the chronic pain cycle, where we don't really realize that we are having pain because of the medications that we're taking. So the body, in an effort to get your attention, makes more and more noise, much like a child that's kind of tugging on your sweater and saying, dad, 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 eventually getting louder and louder and harder to block out and ignore. This is what your body is doing. It's saying to you, hey, Rob, why did you stop me from telling you that we're in trouble? And so it keeps getting louder. And the problem is that as this pain level rises to your level of medication and it hits that point and starts to exceed it, while it's doing that, the medication's starting to lose its efficacy because there's only so much we can take in a safe level. So then when the medication's gone completely, the pain that was originally down here is now up here, and we don't know what to do with it. We are stuck. And so we need to be able to break that cycle, but conventional medicine forces us into that cycle and it kind of traps us there, unfortunately. Now, the holistic health model as well is heavily disregarded by conventional medicine. And really, one of the things we need to look at is the fact that we are, as individual people, beings that have mental health as well as physical health. And we need to intertwine those together if we truly want to succeed. They don't recognize the fact that our body is kind of this thing that responds to our mind, right? The pain-brain connection is a real thing that can be overcome, but by not acknowledging that, all conventional medicine does is kind of push it away and cause more problems with the body. Now, third point here is that surgery is another option. If it's not medications, surgery is what's being pushed on people as well. And outcomes from this vary, but they have the potential to be life-changing. I've seen people where they've actually gotten the results of their surgery and they've been really happy. But I've also seen people that get stuck in these kind of loops where one surgery makes them worse or the same, and it doesn't allow them to get any better. It's just this continual spiral. Now, conventional medicine overlooks the terrain of the body. They're not considering the formation of scar tissue to be a major issue. They think of it as a necessity. But what the scar tissue actually will do is it will end up blocking your body's nervous system from communicating through it. And in turn, it will create more inflammation and problems as it goes. So as conventional medicine overlooks this, it focuses on these specialized systems as well without considering the connection to the rest of it. So they're actually looking at people that they feel must be the ones to solve this problem and they're no longer looking at you as an individual. Post-surgical complications here as well include things like neuralgia, infection, and beyond, and it's pretty rough. A question came in here, which is interesting. Someone just said, what about scar tissue from a mastectomy? Exactly. Scar tissue from anything, wherever it may be, even scar tissue, start thinking about scar tissue, not even just from surgeries, but scar tissue from twists, from breaks, from injuries. When you get whiplash, if you have a fracture, scar tissue is there. It may not be on the surface, but it's there. And all scar tissue acts as a barrier for your fascial tissue. So your electricity of your body, your innate microcurrent can't pass through it. But once you're able to look at that and analyze that, you can actually work with the scar tissue to change its terrain and allow it to start working again. But again, the medical system, the most they do with scar tissue is they might consider a surgery to remove the scar tissue, creating more scar tissue. I mean, it's kind of this cyclical cycle, right? And the post-surgical complications are something we really do want to be aware of. There's a long recovery time and there's a lot of issues there. Also, the other piece that they miss, in my opinion, is that the body is electric. We have trillions of cells in our body, trillions of them, right? And these work together and can be influenced by the environment around us and the influence of our body as well. We need to make sure that the cells of our body are nurtured and ready to heal, okay? And this is something that we're not being looked at. By conventional medicine, they are looking at us as individual people that are not made up of cells, but that are instead a person that has all of these choices we've made, and that's led us to this point with this diagnosis, instead of an individual collection of cells that all need to be nurtured to heal. We have to be able to look at those individual cells and look at the body as a collection of cells if we want to see the bigger picture. That's kind of where I see conventional medicine failing. On day 2, we kind of broke into a little bit of a discussion about inflammation, because the goal of day 2 was to identify the root source of your pain and what aggravates it. Key point number 1 here was that there are 5 signs of inflammation, and we have to be aware that all of these signs are, in most cases, meant to be, and they're something that we want. They're a natural, healthy part of a functioning immune system. These symptoms are redness, swelling, heat, pain, and loss of function. And all of these date back to the times of the ancient Greeks, and even beyond that, before they were named inflammation in that case. However, when these symptoms don't go away after a few days or a few weeks, then we start to wonder why. And this is the chronicity of a problem developing, something becoming chronic. Now, acute injuries usually produce inflammation, and that is a good thing, right? It's a helpful sign that the body's natural healing process has been triggered. If the process is disrupted, perhaps due to an old injury never fully recovering or something stuck in our system for too long, it can lead to chronic pain. Now, chronic pain is then aggravated by the choices that we make in our day-to-day lives. And these can compound. And I'm not playing the blame game here, but as things happen, little things over time can stack up, right? And we have to realize that we can be responsible for turning those things around. Some of these things can be as simple as taking the wrong supplements or inappropriate medications, overexertion and exercise, exercising too much, right? Taking too many supplements, staying in toxic relationships or toxic environments. These can aggravate our pain. People need support. They need the reduction of stress. They need to sleep. We need to eat. We have all of these fundamental functions that are required to make us live. And yet we struggle with a lot of these because the lack of them will end up aggravating, or too much of them. Not taking them just the right amount will end up aggravating the chronic pain and the chronic disease. Another point I brought up on day 2, which I always find very fascinating, is that we have to be aware of channelopathies. This is failed cellular function, so cells that are not electrically sound enough to replicate, or to initiate any function. So poor electricity and inflammation here can actually cause disease. So when we talk about chronic pain, people often think, well, I don't have pain. I have this disease, right? I have epilepsy, I have diabetes, I have an autoimmune disease. These things, these failed cell functions, because the body isn't working, are developing into these diseases that we now know are called channelopathies. So people that are dealing with chronic inflammation will often develop more and more disease over time. And it's very, very sad, but it just ends up being the way it is. Most patients that by the time they're working with me are dealing with 2 to 3 chronic diseases. And it might be different autoimmune diseases, right? Hashimoto's, or diabetes, or Crohn's disease, rheumatoid arthritis. In general, inflammation spreads like a fire and it causes the compounding problems within the body, making things worse for people over time. On day 3, we introduced the HASH-A protocol, the 5 elements to becoming pain-free, and we focused entirely on the first 4. This was sleep, stress, nutrition, and fitness. My first point here was a nod to my parents. This protocol was developed by Dr. John and Laurie HASH-A to help people become pain-free. It's based on 70 plus years of clinical experience. My mom, for her, this was a big part of her helping me overcome my scoliosis diagnosis. And for my dad, he used this protocol to cure himself of rheumatoid arthritis in just a few months, and no longer has any of the markers or anything, just from following the HASH-A protocol. So this has then gone on to help many people become pain-free, and it's what we're talking about throughout this process. Now, key point number 2 here, stress reduction. This is one I lingered on a lot, and it's one that most people have highlighted in their homework this week as the biggest deal for them. It is an integral part of pain resolution to reduce your stress. You have to focus on, recognize, and manage it. The fight or flight response is huge. If we are in pain, if we have disease, we are constantly in fight or flight in most cases. This will trigger inflammation, and it will make it impossible for us to heal because we're waiting for our body to get back into a calm, relaxed state that can actually heal and repair. When you address inflammation, you will address stress. You also address stress and you address inflammation. It's a circle. Inflammation of the brain has actually been shown to be a big part of depression, of brain fog, of Alzheimer's, dementia, and general anxiety and stress. So you know that it's playing a role in that. Whether the stress started the inflammation or the inflammation triggered the stress, that is up to the individual. And it's always an individualized situation with these things. One of the most important things here is avoiding adrenal fatigue. Many people highlighted in their homework that they either have been officially diagnosed by a non-medical doctor with adrenal fatigue, or they believe that that is what they have. This is like the adrenals function as like batteries for your body. And when the adrenals are drained of cortisol, they can no longer give you these backup battery boosts to get you through stressful situations. This means that people end up running on low battery all the time, and the littlest thing can set them off because their stress is no longer something they can manage, and that creates inflammation, and then they just crash. So adrenal fatigue is a real big issue, and it can be addressed through looking at stress reduction and microcurrent. Key point number 3, proper nutrition is crucial in controlling inflammation and pain. We are what we eat. What we eat will directly influence our inflammation and our body's functioning. Make sure you avoid inflammation flare-up foods like processed and fried foods, red meat, dairy, sugar, gluten, and alcohol. A healthy diet rich in anti-inflammatory foods like cold water fish, olive oil, and nuts, these are paramount to actually having long-term relief from chronic pains caused by inflammation. Even if you eat really well, it may be that there's an allergy or an allergen that you are consuming that's causing a dysfunctional gut. And just like anything else with inflammation, but potentially on a worse level, the gut itself can spread that inflammation through the whole body. It's kind of like the melting pot. As the fire continues to burn in the gut, it will spread. It can go from the gut through the vagus nerve to the brain, hitting every organ in between and causing the fire to spread, causing more problems. But if you control the inflammation in the gut, if you can temper that down and create a healthy microbiome that is not inflamed, then you're going to be spreading those healthy, happy signals across the body instead of the pro-inflammatory ones. Key point number 4 is fitness. However, it's important not to overdo it. Fitness does not have to mean running marathons or running on a treadmill. Fitness can mean gardening. It can mean yoga. Swimming is huge. Just bouncing on a little rebounder. These are things that can make a big, phenomenal difference. Movement is medicine. And if you incorporate this into your healing protocol, you will see a difference. And it is just key to not overdo it. It's really easy to start to feel good, to push it up a notch, and to fall back a few steps. Keep it easy. I like to really, really gently increase exercise for people to the point where they're just starting off with little stretches, maybe a couple of wrist stretches or foot stretches, just to get the body used to moving again before you try anything too dramatic. Key point number 5, quality sleep is essential for pain resolution. Sleep is a line of credit, and many of us have a massive sleep debt. Every hour of sleep you lose that you don't get that you need is an hour of sleep you owe to your body. It doesn't come with interest. It's kind of a nice line of credit that way, but you do have to pay it back if you want to get that health back. And the problem is that that can be very, very challenging without the right tools, because how do you catch up on a decade of missed sleep? Well, if you use, we talked about microcurrent, we're talking about that on the next piece here. But if you use something like microcurrent therapy, you can actually help cleanse the brain of these plaques that are built up from not getting enough sleep. So you can actually kind of reverse the clock a little bit there and buy yourself back some of that time. Now, sleeping pills are a lot of people's go-to option, and they may knock you out. Some people don't find that they work at all, but they will not pay off that line of credit. What happens is when you get knocked out by a pill, you are literally just knocked out by it. You're kind of blacking out and you're not entering the proper sleep cycles that you need to be able to actually heal. It's also important to know that that deep sleep, if we sleep properly, will help detox the glial cells in the brain, and that opens us up to a healthier and stronger mind and body. Day 4, we revealed microcurrent therapy, which is what we are most famously known for. Microcurrent therapy is a system already present in your body. It provides electrical signals through your nervous system that control your organ function, resolve pain, promote regeneration, and initiate healing as well. Treatment times do vary depending on the issue with microcurrent, but with a bit of time and commitment, you can regain a pain-free life by correcting that body electric. Remember that scar tissue is a big part of that. If you can cleanse the scar tissue, you can open up those pathways again. Now, the body was designed to heal and not to suffer from pain, right? You weren't meant to just sit there suffering. However, inflammation, scar tissue, and medications, these all can impede electrical signals from getting through. Microcurrent can ultimately work to correct the poor communication here to reduce pain signals. You can actually take advantage of your body's nervous system and trigger the healing process within it. Key point number 3, microcurrent helps the body by providing electrons to free radicals. I can't get a better example than my dad's of free radicals being these things in your body, kind of like the unwanted guest at the wedding, just trying to get with someone and have a good time. Well, the electrons it's just looking for electrons. Free radicals are in your body trying to find something to partner up with. When you use microcurrent, you provide it electrons and it disables the free radicals from causing damage. Essentially, it will also enhance circulation by a very significant amount. We've recorded up to 480%. That's more blood flow, more oxygen, more nutrients being delivered to treatment sites. And it transmits anti-inflammatory, regenerative signals, whatever it is you need, in your body's own language so that the body can actually listen to it and make those changes, which means it's a natural way of healing, albeit that it's a device that's being created, but it's tapping into the natural electrical system and harnessing it to make it work. Now, if you have inflammation in lots of areas of the body, you can use microcurrent to treat each of those individual areas, or you can work on the area itself one at a time, or everything at once by doing a treatment on, say, the vagus nerve. This means that by stimulating the vagus nerve, you can shut down the inflammatory factors across the body as well. And having that inflammation wherever it may be, you can chase it around and treat each point, or you can just cut it off at the pass. Vagus nerve is a huge part of microcurrent, and it is an anti-inflammatory secret, really, because it will cut the inflammatory production off. Next, we have that microcurrent therapy is our secret sauce. It is the synergizer that ties all of the other 4 elements of the Hache protocol together. It amplifies the efficacy of all of the other elements to create an environment in the body that's ideal for healing. How does it do that? Microcurrent therapy can change the pattern of your brain waves to actually put you into a calm, relaxed state that's free of stress. It can trigger these, it can remove the sleep debt with the ability to cleanse the brain, or it can try and put your brain into a state where you actually start to sleep better. It can remove inflammation in the gut and regulate digestive function. And it can even help with ATP production, providing not only healing to muscles and cells in the body, but also increased energy and functionality. So it has all of these different ways of tying together, and any one of these elements that falls out of whack is a problem. But when you combine them all back together and you work together with them, they can repair and stabilize each other and help hold each other up. So our final day, day 5, was cornerstones to resolving chronic pain permanently. And these are small here, but very big in practice. There are 3 cornerstones to resolving chronic pain properly. Ownership, which is to empower yourself to be your own advocate. You have to make sure that you're putting all of that energy in to knowing you are the one that can make the change, right? That is the key here. But you also have to take action. You have to understand that change only happens when action is taken, right? A well-informed plan must be created and used and supported by peers and experts. And you need to be consistent. There's nothing that gets Annie and myself more than when people say, oh, I tried vagus nerve for 2 days and it didn't make a difference, so I stopped. You have to give consistency a try. The body is a creature of habit, and we want it to get that consistency going. So complete a course like ours with support from peers and with a team who understands you, because this can be absolutely paramount. And if you decide to go it alone, absolutely maintain those pieces: ownership, action, consistency. These are crucial to success, okay? Now, any and all protocols that are included in this for our microcurrent for the Hache protocol reset are all accessible online in video format, and they're also in our ebooks as well that you get if you decide to join the reset. If you have any questions, I highly encourage you to text Leo 415-688-2045 and make sure that you get into the Facebook group as well. Additionally, if you would like to learn more about the topics that I just talked about, go to pffljumpstartreplays.com. You'll actually get to watch the full sessions where there's much more informative slides, and I go through all of those things in depth with a lot of pieces that I just did not have the time today. I knew I wouldn't to get through all of them in the allotted time. For those of you who do sign up for the reset tonight on Friday, just so that we're staying on track there, I will be doing my Q&A session tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. You make sure you reach out to get your invite if you want to show up live, and you can hit me with all your questions. I will give you all of the answers, okay? So thank you very, very much, everyone. You take care, and I will see you all tomorrow. We got a lot of stuff going on then. See ya. Bye-bye.